Hey guys, I hope everybody is doing well on today while you're working on this. You've moved out of the geometry section of your ATS course, out of the right triangle stuff, and it's actually finally moving on to the statistics part. So, kind of sad that we won't get to do statistics in the classroom, it seems like. It's kind of a fun little unit, and this first one is really easy. What you need to know for this unit is there's different steps to making a statistical argument and to finding out things. The first thing you should do is to collect data. Sorry, I lost my pen, so I have to do writing with my finger. So the collecting data, you gotta make phone calls, you gotta ask people. You can't just start bringing out random numbers. We want this to be found in a reliable way. Okay, so first thing you gotta do is get some numbers to work with. The next thing you want to do is somehow kind of describe those numbers. So this could be as simple as Group A will vote for President Trump, Group B will vote for President Biden. You've split up the group into two different positions. You've described them. There's a Trump group and a Biden group. And every poll that you see has done something like that. They've taken the raw numbers and they've put them into groups. The third thing you're going to do is make an inference. An inference is kind of like saying you're making a guess, okay? So you've collected this data and you see 80 students hate online learning and 20 students love online learning. The inference you're going to make is that most students don't like online learning, okay? And then finally, those are our three steps, never mind. No finally. So, these first few questions on your checkup, they are just asking you to describe or to choose which one of these it is. And you're going to have a lot of questions like this on your quiz as well, where they're just giving you these three different categories and you're going to read through the situation and decide which of the three it is. So if we did number one, you read through it. To determine the percent of students interested in attending a weekend SAT prep class, Kennedy High School conducted a phone survey of all currently enrolled juniors. This is an example of, well, if you're looking through these, you're making phone calls. You have to get numbers. You're calling your juniors. That'd be an example of collecting the data. There's no numbers yet. We're not describing. We can't make any guesses. We don't know if these senior or juniors want the SAT prep course or not. We just can't make that information yet until we've gotten the numbers to back it up. Okay? We'll skip and go to 3. A social media site found that 72% of its users enjoy the changes it made to its social networking interface. Based on this information, it has decided to keep the new look. The decision is an example of, we have a number, right? We have that 72. That means we've already gone through the process of making phone calls or doing the internet survey, whatever it is. Describing the data. Describing the data would just be putting it into categories. They like the interface, they don't like the interface. And we can see that that's happened, but we've actually gone a step further. Not only do we know 72% enjoy it, we then say, based on this information, that is a very key kind of sentence here. Using that information, we've concluded we want a new design, so that is making an inference. Okay? So hopefully not too challenging. We'll go through number 4 and then we'll kind of end with this section and do the population section. When a marketing firm was developing plans to conduct a survey for a social media site, it had to hire a new CEO first. The hiring of a new CEO is an example of, well, we hired a new CEO. We didn't really need to collect any data. There's not phone calls or surveys being sent out here. We have no numbers that we're describing and putting into categories. And we're not making any assumptions based on any numbers. So in this situation, since there's no numbers, this would be none of the above. So just know that is an option. If that is an option, don't ignore it. Alright. The next category here is this idea of sample and population. A sample is part of a group. Okay? And I'll give examples in a minute. It's kind of easier if you talk about these two together. A population is the whole. Okay? So you have a sample, which is just a part. So the population. Our population could be Steedham. The whole population of Steedham. And the sample I might pull is sophomores at Steedham. It's part of that population, but it's not the whole population. So the sample is just a sliver. The reason we do this is if you watch the news and you see a survey, from Gallup, it says this person is leading in the polls. It's really expensive to do a survey on people. So what statisticians do is they do a random sample. They'll call 1,000 people and use that 1,000 people to represent the whole population. But that's why polls can be a little bit unpredictable, because we're not asking every single person because it's just too expensive, and some people don't have phones or their phones aren't working, they're changing numbers. There's a lot of issues that can go into trying to capture the whole population. That's why we just pull little samples out of the population to try to get an idea of what people are thinking. Okay? So in these questions, it just wants you to identify the sample and the population. Okay? So you read through, and there should be one of each. A high school randomly selects 100 students to conduct a survey in order to collect ideas for a new mascot. Identify the sample and the population. The sample should always be the part. Normally when they're talking about a sample, they'll even give you a number. If you're reading the situation, they've randomly selected 100 students. Sorry, that's awful. So the 100 students is our sample. Odds are this high school has far more than 100 students. So that's just, we're pulling out 100. The population may not be as obvious, but you have to kind of infer it. The sample is 100 students, so the population is all students. Ugh, so bad. Okay, so try to read through these, try to see if you can find the samples and the population. And these last ones are sample population again. It just kind of breaks it down for you. We'll do number 9. In a national survey, 3,245 high school seniors were asked about their involvement in sports. 63% of these seniors responded yes to the question, have you ever been on a school sports team? The 3,245 high school seniors are an example of, this is a national survey. Okay? So think about a national survey, but they're only asking 3,245. We're going to have more graduates than that in just Charles County alone. So clearly this is just a sample of the greater population. Okay? I think that's it. I had one more note about the questions on the quiz. There's a question that asks you about table displays. So a table is a really good way of displaying data. So I have person 1, person 2. Okay? In a table you can display multiple things. Like I could do attendance. And it could be a simple yes or no. So it's not necessarily numbers, just a yes or no. But I could also do test grade. 100 and 0. So I can have both alphabetic and numeric type of responses in one table and display a lot of different data in one table. So tables display lots of different data. There will be a question like that on your quiz. Okay, I hope that's helpful. If you have any further questions on this section, please let me know. Hope you guys are having a good day.